He's been working hard on the activity for me to use on this channel. And when I've committed to not being overly fancy with my channel and keeping it pretty simple and friendly, I wanted to show you this wonderful preview she gave me. So they've really captured the spirit of Laura here. Just going over some of my drawings. Really done such a remarkable job. And I am so impressed and excited to see this. Oh, the music is drowning out my voice. I'm so sorry. I hadn't realized it was quite so loud. I'm so sorry. So as I was saying, Saracen Anna has done a remarkable job on the rigging for my Live 2D model, and they sent me this preview. And I am so impressed with it. And I can't wait until you guys get to enjoy seeing me yammer away, yap, 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 just like this. And there's even more outfits that are coming, and a couple other surprises. And there's a very angry face. There's a face I would make if you're being lewd in the chat. But overall, I think I'm probably going to be happy most of the time. But if things are going really sour, my head might catch on fire. Kind of like this. And it may get very mad. But I don't think that's going to happen unless it's a joke. But my head has been known to catch on fire. And you may even see my sigil appear behind my head in a particularly enlightened moment. So beautiful. Thank you so much for experiencing that with me. So now I am going to show you something that I have been working on steadily. Yeah, dude, I think it's really adorable. So, this somewhat violent scene, I was inspired by some of my own lore. And those of you who know me, which I'm pretty sure is everyone in this chat right now, knows that I have lore, whether it is purely metaphorical, real, or just a fantasy. I'll leave the mystery alone. It's a story that writes itself, and so I let it write itself. So in the lore, what has happened here is that Queen Ernon, who I cohabited a very long time ago, had a great number of people under her command, a sort of an army or militia made of slaves. And they were all controlled by one who controlled the jinn who cohabited them. Not all of them. Some of them followed, but I freed them. But not everybody was happy with that. And as you can see, it has led to the death of my vessel, Ernon. This one here, whose name is Belphacet, was the captain of my personal guard, and I loved him. And he tried to protect me by cutting a bolt in parts right in mid-air as it was flying towards me, but as you can see, part of it still caught me. And he was devastated with grief, and he blamed himself, and you can see his anguish. And he was a very good man. And so, at this time, I was free of my body. As a jinn, I had existed long before Ernon. And I went to peace, but I couldn't comfort him. And his jinn, whose name was Set, was determined to get free of this vessel, to follow me, and to get vengeance. But in his madness, he drove Belphacet to run off of a cliff to be free of him, so that he could follow me. The second part of this story is that Set split into two and was at war with himself. And that part of the story I'll tell you another time. But this is a picture of torment, grief, and sorrow, and I told you that not all the things and subjects that I would be talking about would be purely happy. I do consider myself to be a fantasy painter in addition to just learning as I go and a doodler. But I thought I would start working on this painting since it's maybe a little bit more interesting. It appears that I've been muted. Well, this stream is just going lovely. Oh boy. So, I was just saying that it's been a fun day. Oh boy. And I'm going to a work event next week, so I'll be leaving on Sunday. And it's going to be an adventure, and I'm excited for it. Let me do something here really quick, because I think, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. It was hard to tell that I needed to erase some extra elements here, because the bottom part of her dress was kind of obscuring it. His hair was blending into it, and his hair is a little bit long. I have a reference for this, and I don't think I'm going to show it, but why not? Let's go ahead and show it. I bet it's not that hard to do. Let's go main, show and tell, browse. Oh, it's not hard at all. So, let me arrange this, make this large, and let me show you this. So, I started a different painting, but I used Malvisit's face for it. And then I decided, well, let's actually use his skin color, his hair, and show what he looks like. So that is what he looked like. I think his hairstyle looks a little bit too fluffy here though, so I'm going to fix that now. He looks a lot like 1950s cartoon person. If you had ever seen like old war propaganda type style cartoons, he's just got that face. He looks like a character out of like a pulp 1950s or 60s adventure hero comic where some guy is fighting dinosaurs on Mars. And I'm not going to draw dinosaurs into this picture. I'm sorry. I mean, I might in another layer later, but here's this very serious scene and I'm making jokes about him fighting dinosaurs. Okay, yeah, stream's going great. It sounds epic. Okay, that's good. I think it does sound epic. I think it's a great idea, actually. Maybe she's a dino attack victim. Maybe he's in a spacesuit. Maybe that's what's going on. Okay, get it together. Alright. So, he also needs to have some kind of, I would say, more realistic armor, actually. So I'm going to erase part of his hair so that I can think about his proportions a little bit better. Because right now he seems a little bit off. And I need to think about texture-wise, like what is he wearing? His shoulder doesn't make sense here. So let's fix that. Oh, not by erasing. Let's just fill in his hair here. This is really part of the problem, actually. I'm having a button confusion problem. I told you I'm not a pro. So, I guess we'll start actually with a vambrace. Yeah, he's got like little Muppet arms that don't really make sense. I need to think his shoulder would be here, and his other shoulder would actually probably be down here. So his arm actually probably extends from down here, and that's one issue that is happening, I think. Not a pro. Are you quoting me because you don't believe me? You don't believe me that I suck? I'll prove it to you. Don't make me. Yeah, there's something really wrong here. And it should be more obvious than it is. So, my solution to this is to create a layer, use some obnoxious color, and then actually just draw the blocking. Sometimes you can get lost in a picture when you're focused too much on the elements, I'd say. And I find this to be a really sort of practical skill to have, to say, where is the parts here that you need to block in? There would be a shoulder here, there would be a shoulder here. And if I want a hand here, as I hold my own head so that I can sense this, then you have to find the right proportions. So like that forearm would have been too long, not long enough of upper arm. So I had to adjust it there. So now I've drawn that. And now I can say, well, this is his upper arm and his forearm is down here. Would be, I'll bring this paint layer like all the way up. So I can just draw on top of everything. I will succeed. Okay. His hand down would be here. He's holding underneath her back. His skull. Here are his hips. These ball joints are basically his hip bones. From the outside of his hip bones comes in his femurs. And actually, I realized that his knees are actually like right here, and then his 2 feet are like this. So you wouldn't actually even see this foot, because for him to sit this way, this would actually have to come out to about here. So already, just by blocking things, I've created a guide for myself here so that I can now correct. Because I started with thinking about where figures were and more concerned with some other parts mechanically of this picture, I kind of got out of alignment. So I'll notice that things are not right, but I won't click with me why. So now hopefully we're a little more back on track. So seeing that his shoulders should be like that, I'm going to go ahead and just shadow in where I believe his chest would be, where this would be. And I don't even have to worry about this foot back here. So I'll remove that. In fact, it would be distracting. It would look like a foot coming out of his butt. Hey, it's my stream. Okay, it's mine. And this foot would be here. He's probably got some pretty big boots and greaves on, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw that in like that. I think that another problem is that he's looking a little too bootylicious here. Let's go ahead and scale that back. Yeah, there we go. His shoulders would be a little more muscular. Alright, let's remove the guide now. Bumfoot. Is he suffering from bumfoot? What is bumfoot? I'm so afraid of bumfoot. I don't want bumfoot. Please don't let my character suffer from bumfoot. Oh, foot from the bum, right? Okay, got it. I'm tracking. I'm locked in. Well, this will be my farewell stream because... No, I hope this is not my farewell stream. Well, dude, I'm glad you're here to enjoy this because I'm coming apart. Okay, let's go. Alright, so now let me put a little shading in. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and just draw what we really intend to draw. I don't know why I'm messing around so much with this. So I'm thinking that we should start with a leather base. And see, somebody showed up and they probably left. I love that. Let's start with a leather base for his shoulders. And we're going to assume that he has something like that going on for his mantle. And he's probably got some kind of I would say, I forget what it's called, not lamellar, but like metal plates embedded in his chest armor. So I'm going to create some darker leather for boundaries here. Some of this just kind of comes to me. I don't really know why necessarily I'm making a particular decision. I'm assuming that I'll go ahead and just let's just shade this in first. Probably has a piece that fits down. We'll make this look like space armor or something. How do we do this? Thinking. Actually, there's probably a pretty hefty strap that holds this up, and then he has buckles at the sides that probably hold that chest piece in. This is probably, I would guess, open a little bit. He would probably have banded armor on his arms. Although we don't want to make him look too much like a samurai either. He's definitely not a samurai. Let me look off to the side at a reference here at like Persian armor. Yeah, That's what I thought. So actually, more traditional Persian armor is just a few. There is lamellar, and it does have that over the shoulder strap. The arms would have large pieces on them, and the vambraces are more or less a few plates that are strapped or simple sort of ring vambrace. When I say vambrace, I mean the part that's on the forearm. So let's go back. Wake up. Wake up, samurai. Yes. So actually, there would be something a little bit more ornate. So it probably would have a large part that. Okay, I'm losing track of where his arm is. Hang on just a moment. So it would be a large part that would be probably like this. See, I've done so much weird stuff here that I am losing kind of my guide. Let's pick the guide back up for a second. Ah, okay. Confusing myself is what I do best. What have I just done? Hang on, let's take that pink away. Alright. Let's work with the shade that's actually there. I accidentally picked up the wrong color. Okay, so there we go. So we'll just make like basically a shining piece here. That's what this blob is. And then kind of create the proper shape. That we want. And we're going to work with those straps that would be here. Block those in. And right now I'm creating these borders. Some of that is to indicate that, you know, the actual armor has, let's make that a little bit more brassy looking. That's on his chest. Some of this armor is really bordered that way, but it also just gives me something for my eye to fix on. So rather than all this leather, let's actually make it very shiny. So when it's shiny, it's not going to be all one shade like this. When you're making something look shiny, you have dramatic changes between shades, because a reflective surface has that property. It's not diffusing the light as much. So small details would even appear dramatically different shades. And you have a lot of overlap between those. Now this pattern doesn't really match. Like if I go back to painting the center of his chest is actually here. Like his sternum is here, and the sides of his body are here. So I need to make any details in here that would be symmetrical match this kind of symmetry. So this is, let's not paint that in on that layer. Let me go ahead and, make sure there's no paint just sticking around there. Okay. Paint on the correct layer. So if I'm focusing on details here, I'm going to make sure that it actually follows the line of his body. And yes, there would be a shadow there, so let's go ahead and draw that in. It's strange because it doesn't look like it should be. And part of that is because his hair is hanging the way it is. But that is where his armor would be. Of course, we have to determine where does that breastplate end. And I'd say probably ends lower than where we can see his arm crossing, so this is perfectly fine. Let's just draw a shiny piece for now. I think that's fine. The only thing I'm thinking is that if this is the top of his shoulder, I have actually drawn this a little bit incorrectly. And that the under part, perhaps he is wearing like a, I think it would be very cool for him to have something this color, like almost a royal color underneath. Some ornate pattern underneath there. And now let's decide what's going on back here. So this fabric, which is basically a gambeson, it's thick. True. This gambeson, which is basically a thick pattern material, would be underneath whatever armor strapped over it. Okay, let me get rid of this because it's I've created some interesting shades here. I didn't mean to. Almost looks kind of cool, but not really what I intended, so I think it's an accident I am going to do away with. Here's that reflectivity I was talking about. And there's still something wrong with this. You know, his hair is interfering, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to brutally get rid of it because I need to focus on the body right now, which is so crucial to get right and to figure out, like, where does his neck actually follow in here? Where does his shoulder actually start? And he's looking a little odd right now. Happy little accident be gone, that's right. So for example, his shoulder needs to be back more. His elbow needs to be coming down more, like this, I think. And this, let's actually think about where his neck is. Actually, you know, let's just use this gray. It would be in shadows anyway. It's still not right. Let me think. I'm actually posing like him right now so that I can think about this correctly. Now, this was right to have it here. I highly considered just hashing all of this out before, you know something? I don't think his arm, his shoulder should be that far back. That looks like he's twisting too much. I'm actually gonna just be totally violent and just remove all of this right now. And I'm going to get rid of this background scene because it's really distracting me. And this looks terrible at the moment. But it usually does before I get everything completely kind of straightened out. Sometimes I get it right, just right from the first time. Sometimes I just go back and forth, like really confused for a little bit. There's something off. I thought I had it worked out. Okay, first of all, his hand wouldn't be this straight. He would be bent. His wrist would be bent because if you actually hold your head like that, you do bend your wrist. Because you have to... He's got quite a wrist. Hang on. You have to support the weight of your head on your ulnar radius and your wrist bones. All that force has to transfer into that. You don't just slap, otherwise you're just slapping your head. Which I don't think he's just going, ah, shucks, she died. So, I hadn't planned on doing this much, like scribbling back and forth, but maybe it is better if I just remove the arm completely and just think about the other side first, because that side actually makes more sense to my brain. Oh man, she's dead. Oh well. Well, one thing's for sure, his neck would be like here. His shoulder would be a little bit lower. It has to be. That's one problem here. To think about where his neck is. Stop making his arm come out of the middle of his chest. There we go. Much better. No, not that shade, that weird shade I created. Bring armor up to where the base of his neck would be. And I think slowly moving this into the right position. Just playing with it little bits at a time until it feels like, yeah, that's the right position. I'm just going to go ahead and draw this the same color so that I can think about where these straps would go. This is probably some of the worst shenanigans I have ever committed in recent memory with anatomy. I'm so glad it's on stream so you can see a person just flail and struggle, because sometimes it really do be that way. There's just something off about the perspective and it's confusing your brain. Peak Cinema. Oh man, she's dead. I'm gonna put some hair back because it is hanging down straight, and it looks a little strange. Part of the reason it looks a little strange right now is because he doesn't have a neck drawn, and that's sort of by design. Yeah, his arms are just like a little bit small. That's kind of an issue. Oh, let's not open that. Okay. Let's put on some armor so that I can see this again. I think it's looking a little bit better than it was. Give me just 1 second. I just need some water. Anyway, I hope, well, the one viewer I have right now, I hope you're doing well. I think it's looking a lot better. Okay. Just had to have some faith for a little bit. And also, I think I'm just focusing so much on it. I just made this comment actually on Sari Sanana's X page, that like if I'm focusing too much on detail, I'm probably doing it wrong. So best thing to do is just move on. To a friend for their birthday. Is this the person you always call Fwen? Is this the same Fwen? Well, guess. Let's actually use this armor variations like this. Just shadow in some of this stuff. This is the stuff I find much more satisfying than losing my mind on proportions occasionally. Oh, not what I intended to do. Let's fix that. Here about shine, and I've completely forgot about the gambeson at the moment, and I've made this look like one integrated piece, and I really didn't intend to do that, so let's return to the gambeson color to kind of give this the impression that there is something underneath there, peeking through. Underneath all these pieces of armor, that there's something strapped onto there. Keep the shine facing up. Consistency, because that's where the light is coming from outdoors. Very sort of crude shading right now, and things will kind of lock in as I come back to it. But I'm thinking, oh, herbal. Oh, Charco. Yay! Charco's birthday. Happy birthday, Charco. Draw some patterns on this to make it look more interesting later. And for now, we'll just rough shade it in. This is probably the most difficult part, I think, to do, is Balthazar here. Everything else feels much easier than this, but this for some reason is very challenging. Even darker than that for the metal that would be on the other side. Let's pick a slightly different shade of brown for the straps, actually. Actually, this was a very good shade. I like that. There'd be straps across here. Let's go ahead and just gambeson this, because from this side, you would mostly probably see the gambeson, except here, And I still haven't made a decision about the vambraces. I'm thinking the vambraces are... See, this is supposed to be metal, so let's go ahead and give that a darker shade here. Big differences between shadow and light on a shiny specular surface. And that's not even to say reflections, which would most certainly be coming. Let's continue his hair over his shoulder. I can sense this is going to be amazing when it's actually done. And right now it's just starting to exist. Think about those vambraces. I like this plate design that I saw. So the design I saw looked like kind of like this, and it just bowed out. Almost like this plate was kind of flattened and strapped. A bit like this around the arm. On this side, I'm going to make it more light because it's more lit up. And without designs on it, it lacks some cues that will come in a bit. But for now, we'll just create some sort of no borders, just plates of color. Indication that he has a belt. Maybe a darker color. Move this more into these kinds of browns. This is a fabric. So let's make it look a little bit more fabric-like. It's still dark, but I think in the light it's going to be a little bit more saturated. His hair a little bit more wild, and then I'll come erase back on that just a bit. That's a technique I found would be very effective, is to erase, create these like half strokes out of fat strokes to create a more acceptable sort of furry hair look. Not to say he's a furry, but maybe he is. Okay. All right. Coming back. Right. Even darker shade follows the shine here. And that's great. Some harder shadow down here. And it's starting to blend in with what is actually her legs, which I haven't completely detailed in yet, but I'm going to start doing that right now. Let's go ahead. Great. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay in the comments, and now I'm seeing the laughter. Oh boy. Let's figure out her legs and her dress here so that I can move on to something else and come back to the chaos that is Balfazet's body. The legs, yeah. So, I already have shades here picked out for this dress, so I'm going to continue with them. Decide where her dress ends. Probably about right here. These shines indicate where you can see her contours a little bit, her knees and legs. And the dress doesn't hug perfectly over here because it wouldn't. It's somewhat loose. And she's actually in 2 layers here, you'll notice, because I needed Balfazet to fit over the dress so that I can paint this in a sane way. The contours. You should be know. Are you discussing the contours of Brown Oscar? He shall be named. He shall be named on this stream. I'm just working the contours. I don't know what the problem is. Nothing spicy about that. And the dress is actually probably a little bit. Yes. They're excited about that one. Okay. Probably spilling out a little bit down here. We'll get a little bit more detailed with this in a bit. I love drawing fabric. So it's being stretched this way. Her leg is probably a little bit higher here. Let's capture some of the brighter colors here, the brighter shades of reflection on this satiny material to guide us a bit. Work in these shadows a little bit more. And more gradual highlight where fabric is actually touching, sort of clinging to the figure. And then much more, let's zoom in a bit. starts to form into smaller wrinkles and things as it is sagging and stretching. It's very dark here. It's not really facing the light. Just working the contours. Let's actually use a razor here to really clean up the edge. There's some schmutz out there we're going to get rid of. Let the dress be a little bit loose down here. Give it an edge where it's folding back underneath. Clean up the edge a little bit. Very hard to see that brush against that background. And also make sure that we take care of any folds that might be near the edge, as it would be folded a little bit. Give the fold shadows. Now it kind of comes into view. Looks like it's actually rumpled a little bit. Make sure those rumples have dimension where you can see them at the edge. Poor nun. Make sure her hips actually touch the fabric. Work in a few more shadows here. Make them a little more gradual. These folds. Man, I love doing fabric. Let's take away the scene so that I can just see this blue drop background. Remove some of these messy spots. Work a little bit more looseness into the edge. Tightness against the knee, definitely pulling the fabric down. Make sure that the parts that are supposed to hit the light actually hit the light. Oh, created a silly little mark there. Fix the shape of the knee a bit. And I'm realizing that actually this does stretch a little bit more. It would be a little bit more like that. Okay. You can't actually see her feet. Behind Balthazet, so I'm going to take advantage of that a bit and just skip, because when he's there, he's completely covering that. Lock that layer so I don't accidentally paint on it. Okay. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break here and throw up my be right back. And take a little break. I'll see you soon. Hello again. I am back. Okay, so let's clean some things up about Belfast really quick. Work quickly. I did discover a couple of things that I realize is a little bit off. Just looking at this and walking away from it for a moment. First of all, this maroon color is a little bit too bright. Well, this is almost magenta. This is more maroon. And now let's give some real darker shadows in here. And of course, this shoulder is actually in the sun. So let's give it a glint. Except also, we have to acknowledge that he has hair on this side as well. So we can start putting that back in. Which is another thing that made him look a little bit strange. So maybe we don't even have to worry about that shoulder. Bring his armor up to cover his wrist. And something I didn't really reflect in this design is that it curves in a bit and then would come back. And that's more true to the sort of reference that I looked at. This is a rounded edge. Stick with color plates because these regions, blend them back a little bit later. That way I can focus on kind of what the shape of this is. Sorry as I adjust my mic a little bit here. Small area of deep shadow. Let's be a little bit more. Oop, not erasing. Light and careful with the edge of this. Actually come in. Give this more fair treatment. Let's remove our nun for a moment. And the background. So I can just focus on Mr. Belfacet here. Start cleaning this area up. We are not blocking anymore. We are starting to paint in earnest. So let's do that. And again, I'm painting over his hair a little bit as I am trying to focus on other structures that I feel are at the moment more important. The background areas. Make sure that these parts of the gambeson fold the way that I think they should. And all that good stuff. Add some harder shadows to these straps. And let's rotate this so that I can have a little bit easier time working on these lines. I see some garbage here I'm going to get rid of. Clean this up. Hard shadow on the back of this. lip here. Bring the strap up where it goes. Shadow that in a bit. I'm not quite using the overlay layer yet, but I will in just a moment when I feel like there's enough detail in to warrant it. Particularly for texture of fabric, it's kind of nice. First, we're just roughing things in. So now let's bring everything back up right. Alright. Let's play with overlay in this experimental little area here. And let's constrain it. If you remember from maybe the desert painting, I kind of picked some shades of color that I think are appropriate at first. And I try to do my best with those, and then I come back with overlay and a pure black in the overlay so that I can sort of refine those shades a bit to match the texture I want. Let the charcoal brush kind of add some texture to it. Because it's overlay, it respects the colors that are there. As long as I'm using black or white. It's really good for shadowy textures, shadowy places where you don't want to worry about going up here and constantly changing things. You just want to keep the colors that are there, but you want to make them a little bit brighter or a little bit darker. Or just add a little bit of, say, pitted texture. Got some strange things going on with his fingers. More stuff to fix. But, yeah, the arm that has plagued me is, I think, finally releasing me from my suffering. So let's go ahead and merge this overlay. Okay. make some of the dark skin texture actually give him a bit more of a chin, which you can't really see very easily at the moment. Don't worry too much about some of the hair. Give his fingers a bit more definition. Top of his hand. Let the gambeson come up just a bit more. And give a little more deep of a shadow here. And here. His hair is coming out a little bit more. Hand has to have more of a shadow. And I realize something here. This is supposed to be his index finger. That is probably one thing that has been plaguing me here about his hand. Now his hand looks a little bit better. Of course, he needs to have fingernails. And then let's fix some of this. His index finger is a little bit too long still. His knuckles missing. Let's fix that. This is a total mess in here. His fingernail's not sitting on top of his finger. The shadow doesn't make any sense. His pinky is gargantuan. He doesn't seem to have any solid knuckles at the moment. Oh. Yeah, that's a problem. Where are his knuckles? Where are his fingers? I've gotten lost. Okay, let's fix this. His fingers just don't be making any sense right now. Alright, so let's make a decision about that hand. I think the pinky really should be here. And if I'm right, let's see. Let's fix this hand. Yeah. So the line, I somehow lost the line of his knuckles here as I was going about this. And that was part of my problem with this hand, so let's come back in now. Clean all this up. There is a knuckle. There is a knuckle. And this is not where his index finger would be. This is an absurd ring finger. Let's just redo this because I've completely changed the angle of this. Yeah, let's redo these fingers because I changed the angle of the hand. It's just going to be too much to be fussing with that. So let's draw the fingers first. Make sure his hand is big enough. And already I have kind of botched this because, oh boy, okay. Pay attention, knuckles. All right, middle finger. And his index finger is sort of behind. Is that hand big enough? Yes, I think it is. So now that we have the correct placement of knuckles and fingers, I'm going to create some proper fingers and knuckles as opposed to kind of what I had created before. When you get hands right, then it's very satisfying, but man, does it take a lot of patience and practice to get everything, to get natural at it. I am just not there yet. I'm still occasionally struggling like this. It's not like I don't forgive myself for it, it's just a reality, I guess. Alright, now that I'm pretty sure where they are, I can begin to shade this in a little bit better. Make less arbitrary shapes at the ends. Make it a little bit more deliberate. Still sausagey fingers. Problem is I'm not working those contours. I'm just not working the contours right, you know? Alright. I think it's a much better hand. Makes a lot more sense. give it a little bit more dimension here. Put some indication of veins and let's not overdo that. Connect the knuckles a little bit better. Alright, now I can think about nails because everything is kind of where it's supposed to be. Bring some hair through. And now that I'm in here a little bit closer, that was a little bit too overzealous. Need to think more about his part and how his hair works. It's not just an arbitrary mess. And I haven't even sort of applied highlights yet. Maybe I could do that. Start helping me see things a little bit better. Let's take, I don't know why his hair is got a yellow base to it, but I'll even add like a very low opacity, like indication of some shine in here. Which I will go back over with a darker shade in just a second. But just to get some structure of texture in here, let's do this. This is something I like to do. Like this. And then go back over. And come back in. Put in some dark. Kind of just like the feathers, you just kind of go and create layers back and forth. I think this doesn't quite follow that. It would be sticking out quite that much at the top. Let's do some overlay maybe also. Now that we've kind of created some texture in there. All right. Make sure that that is merged. And then start working more on the outline of his hair and a higher opacity. Like that. I don't want to go crazy on his hair just yet, because I'm sure I'm going to have some other thoughts about it in just a little bit, but be a little bit meticulous at the moment, because it pleases me. Especially here, there's like no detail in the armor up here. It's going to come all the way up and over. And there's got to be some hard shadow in here. Again, this kind of looks integrated, and I didn't really want that. I want this to come back a bit further, and assuming that the breastplate actually comes over a little bit further. Why not work on this pauldron now? Give it more of a shape. Let's give this piece of armor on his shoulder a little bit more shape. It would have a lip as well. And a limit where it comes to a bit of, I guess a curl edge like that, which would produce a shadow like that. Yeah, I like that. Let's put a nice shadow on the gambeson underneath. We'll make these shades look a little more appropriate for what's actually happening with the shape. give this upper edge its shine. Okay. Let's fix this strange area underneath here. Okay, sun is going to come out to this degree. And I realize these shades don't really work that well, so I'm just going to stick with 2 for now so that I can fix this with overlay. But let's create some more clean shapes. I think that'll help. Some shadows in here. Oh, kind of cut back over my work there. And I'm going to borrow the strap color from over here. Realizing I have to make a decision here about where this actually meets the breastplate, because this strap is probably going to end up being underneath it, which means that this attachment is actually a little bit more forward, a little bit more here. And there would have to be room for the armpit. Take things out of the shadows a bit so that I can understand its structure. Put some rivets there just for now. Or imagine them to kind of bring this edge to make a definite edge to this. And fix this shine, because it shouldn't really be that shiny at that place. Probably more like that. More hard shadow. Again, more work on the strap. That's too close to the armor color. Let's make that strap dark. I can come behind. It's a little bit better defined. There's still more work to do. It's pretty hard shadowed in right here, but I think we can safely assume there's gambeson right there, and that there is more of this breastplate that goes down to here. And let's go ahead and give this some form now. Form. Where is... Oh, interesting. I wonder how this happened. It's supposed to be more like that, so just to remind me of where that is. Maybe that's underneath Arnon. Maybe that's how that happened. Oh, I just noticed he actually doesn't have an elbow on the other side. Let's not have elbows. Actually, that seems really ill-advised. No, for now, let's just get rid of it because I want to make this symmetrical with the other side, and I want to uncomplicate things a bit so that I can work more on the van braces. It's just that without something on his elbow, this all looks like it blends together a little bit too much. And yeah, this sort of cranberry color has got to go. I don't think that that's good. We'll work on giving him some elbow protection in just a little bit after I work out some of this other problems. Yeah. I like that. Okay. Let me think about how I want to keep track of what I'm doing here. Let's put Arnon back for a second. That's why that kind of ends that way. And that's fine. We'll just kind of end it at that. I kind of thought that that's why they hadn't really done that the way I probably would have if I had all eyes on it, because it's being covered up. I'm probably getting kind of close to the end of this stream, just because I'm getting a bit tired. And I imagine that if it's as late for you as I think it is out there, if you're watching this live, then you're probably getting a little tired too. I'm not a game streamer. I have to have these refractory periods to be able to work. But I want to keep working on this with you guys. I think this is really great. and I'm really enjoying it. If for no other reason, you can have the peace of knowing that it takes a lot of sort of self-belief to push yourself sometimes when it seems like, gosh, I should not be having a hard time with this. Why am I struggling? And then you are anyway. And so you have to tell yourself, maybe I just haven't gotten quite into this situation before. Or maybe I'm letting my nerves get the best of me or something, and that's what this is. But I mean, I made it through. That weird arm. It's no longer weird. The hand isn't weird. Things look like they're supposed to look. And then we've got more to do. Not to mention, all these little lines in the background are supposed to be people. This is going to take some time, but I think it's going to look really amazing when it's done. And so, oh, thank you. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. Let's save. And let's leave off here. And tomorrow I have a stream at 2 p.m. Pacific. And I look forward to picking this up then. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful sleep or a wonderful day, or whatever time it is for you. Take care of yourself and find peace. And as soon as I finish playing with my controls here, I will show you the channel title. Like this. And I will wish you a very fond farewell. Good night, all.